What is up everyone, Ethan here from the PixelArrowProductions, excited to bring you another Skyrim Special Edition modded build. Today I have a video that has been quite long in the making, and it's one of the most interesting ideas I've seen when it comes to Skyrim builds. The credit for this idea goes to a good friend of mine and a phenomenal YouTuber that I'm sure you all know of. Mr. BADCompanySarge has organized this collaboration that I'm bringing you today, where we attempted to bring the mysterious 4 horsemen of the apocalypse into the world of the Elder Scrolls. Today I am bringing you the Red Horseman of War, and Mr. BADCompanySarge himself has created a build on the Pale Horseman of Death. If you want to play as the White Horseman of Pestilence, head over to Mr. Shadow Penguin's channel, and finally the Black Horseman of Famine build is brought to you by a good friend of mine, Mr. Brosis JK. The full list will be in the description along with links to the respective videos for the other horsemen. Before we move on, I need to recommend that you check out the channels of all the people I've just mentioned. This is not just I'm recommending this because I have to, because it's a collaboration recommendation. I personally watch and enjoy all the content on these channels, so I'd highly recommend that you check them out. They've all worked really hard on this project, and every one of them puts out great Skyrim content. So, with all the introductions out of the way, let's bring the Red Horseman of War into the lands of Tamriel. War. It is the natural state of mortals. Throughout the ages, peace like a plague has spread across the land, only to be replaced by the glorious state of death, conquest, revolution, and destruction. War hardens the hearts of men and mer, forging their muscle into iron and their will into steel. The strong among them rise and the weak fall. The lions devour the sheep. When wars end and the people of Tamriel celebrate, we must ask ourselves, what are they celebrating? Some would say they celebrate the end of the blood of conflict. This is a falsehood. No, mortals do not celebrate the end of wars. They merely celebrate their results. The Red Horseman of War will be an Imperial. This is for no particular reason other than role-playing. In the real-world history, the Red Horseman is almost always pictured as a mighty warrior in Rome, as Rome was the largest military power when the Horsemen of the Apocalypse first came into history. I've tried to reflect this idea throughout the build, but in any event, using the Imperious Races of Skyrim mod, the Red Horseman will have 3 passive abilities and 1 racial power that is unlockable through a quest. The Discipline ability allows him to buff allies' armor while in combat. The Imperial Virtues ability allows him to randomly gain bonus health, magicka, or stamina when entering combat, and the Human Spirit ability allows him to alter his attributes, resistances, and skills at levels 10, 20, and 30. The racial power that is unlockable through a quest is the Colovian Star ability, which can be used once per day. This replenishes the 2 attributes with the highest remaining percentage. Using the Andromeda Standing Stones mod, War will use the Atronach Stone. This stone fits the playstyle to a T, and with the Andromeda mod, the Atronach Stone grants 2 new passive abilities and 1 new unlockable power. The Corrupted Arcana ability makes magicka unable to regenerate. Each kill within 50 feet of the player restores magicka equal to 25 times their level. The Oblivion Bound ability reduces the cost of spells casted by 50% and increases their effectiveness by 25% if you have magicka remaining. The unlockable power is Devour from Within, which can be used once per day. This paralyzes a living target, absorbing 50 magicka for 10 seconds. When their magicka depleted, it absorbs health instead. These abilities work extremely well with War's magic and might style of combat. As you will see later, the Red Horseman uses illusion spells to inspire hate in his enemies and cause them to relentlessly attempt to destroy one another. However, he also doesn't mind charging into battle himself to contribute to the conflict, so every kill he gets will replenish his magicka and allow him to renew the fight with another illusion spell, causing a vicious cycle of battle and war, and this plays right into the Red Horseman's hands. War has existed for so long on Nirn that it has often become a convention of life on the planet, so much so, in fact, that war has often in history been personified as a fierce warrior who rides into battle upon a blazing steed. Such a figure has gone down in history as a myth or legend, but there are few on Tamriel who still believe. Small sects of the known cults to Mehrunes Dagon have been known to believe that the Red Horsemen of War will come down to Tamriel to cleanse it of peace. Little is known about the strange and often brutal faction of Mehrunes Dagon worshippers that believe in the Red Horsemen, but what is known comes from their most ancient and sacred religious text. The Prayer of War. I am War. I have come to Tamriel to bestow upon you the truth. The truth, my friends, is that not everyone is destined to prosper. Those whose bodies are strong and whose will is stronger are those who deserve to prosper. Our Lord, Mehrunes Dagon, will bring about the revolution of lions and raise the strong. The apocalypse will wipe out the accursed sheep from this land, the sheep who do nothing but spread disease, take unearned land for their own, and leech resources. They are as parasites, growing fat at the expense of the strong. Brothers, there is a reason war continues to wage, despite feeble efforts towards peace. War brings out the best in mortals. Cunning, glory, honor, strength, unity, discipline, community, camaraderie, bravery. Are these not things towards which we all strive? A man who does not strive for these things does not deserve the gift of life. War shall see it extinguished. May Lord Dagon deliver me not into peace and complacency, but into the strength of war. Amen. Now you will take a hand in the Red Horseman's story. The Horseman of War will do anything he can to spread conflict, therefore he will join one side of the civil war. I went for the Imperials to fit with the real-world lore aesthetic, but choose whichever side you think has a larger chance of prolonging the continent-wide war against the Thalmor. War, however, can come in all shapes and sizes, thus a fair few questlines can be justified by joining a side you think will prolong the conflict or even start one. For example, the Dark Brotherhood is viable as long as you join with the ultimate goal of assassinating the Emperor. This situation is a great benefit for the Horsemen because it would play off of the paranoia that already exists against the Thalmor and encourage finger-pointing, for lack of better phrase, and thus prolong or even start a new conflict with the Emperor's death. Some other questlines can be justified by a similar argument, such as the war between the Dawnguard and the vampires, so if you can see a specific quest could start or promote a pre-existing conflict, go for it. The only other quest that could be considered mandatory is the Mythic Dawn quest in Dawnstar, as the Horseman of War is ultimately a servant of Dagon. Roleplaying is a large part of this build, but not in the traditional sense. The Horseman of War is totally unforgiving, cold, and utterly merciless. Anything that achieves his ends will be done without question. Essentially, the Horseman will be willing to kill an innocent as soon as look at them if it serves his needs, but he won't do so without purpose. There's no need to talk to anyone or act any certain way around NPCs. Remain something of an anomaly, a mysterious and unknown figure. Few citizens of Skyrim will recognize you as the Red Horseman of War, so use that to your advantage. When you go by a fort or castle of bandits, use your illusion spells to sow conflict between them, just for the sheer purpose of spreading war around Tamriel. As for a playstyle in combat, start battle by launching powerful fury spells to cause absolute chaos on the battlefield. Then charge in on your steed and kill every enemy in sight with your sword. It's generally a pretty simple concept. To recap, sow chaos, then bash some heads. Now we get into the more technical side of the build. The main skills for this particular build will be illusion, heavy armor, one-handed, and block, but before we get into the specific perks for this build, let's talk about the spells and champs you will be using. The main spells for this build will be illusion spells. Fury, Frenzy, and Mayhem and other like spells are completely viable depending on how much magic you have and what level your illusion is at. Courage, Rally, and Call to Arms can also be useful in the Civil War and other spells like them, obviously. Again, choose what spell of these you are using depending on your illusion level and how much magicka you have. As for shouts, there are a few that fit the playstyle, including Fire Breath, Battle Fury, Marked for Death, and Unrelenting Force. All of these contribute to the war battle side of your playthrough and are definitely a good thing to pick up along your way. One-handed will be a main skill of the Red Horsemen of War. From this tree you will take 2 levels of one-handed mastery, Furious Strength, 1 level of Clash of Champions, Crosscut, Falling Sword, and Windswept. Most of the perks taken here increase the damage and increase the effectiveness of power attacks in various ways. Furious Strength also reduces the stamina cost of power attacks. From the block tree, the Red Horseman will take 2 levels of block mastery, quick reflexes, deflect arrows, and power bash. Deflect arrows is an extremely important perk for an early game, especially as you are very slow moving until you take the Born to Fight perk from the heavy armor tree, which we'll talk about later, so having that extra defense against archers is extremely useful. The Power Bash allows you to more heavily stagger enemies, allowing you to get a quick attack with burn damage from your sword, allowing you to more easily inflict the burn damage and move on to another enemy if necessary. When not charging in on your horse into battle, it is easy to take a lot of damage without some heavy perks invested in the heavy armor or light armor trees. In this case, we've gone for heavy armor, and the perks you'll be taking from this tree are 2 levels of heavy armor mastery, Battle Weary, Heavy Armor Fit, Rallying Standard, Face of Death, Defiance, and Revel in Battle. Face of Death is extremely important for this character because it allows him to benefit from all the perks that require a full set of heavy armor without wearing a heavy armor helmet. This is great because the Red Horseman uses a Dragon Priest mask, which is light armor. Rallying Standards is another cool perk that allows you to have the Rallying Standard power, giving you the opportunity to place a banner of a faction of your choice. In this case, you will be choosing whatever faction you side with the Civil War on during battle, and it will buff you and your allies as you charge into battle. Born to Fight is a perk which I mentioned earlier that gives you a speed boost, allowing you to move more quickly in spite of your heavy, burdening armor. So this can be very useful when off your horse in simple ground infantry combat. Illusion is also a staple skill for the Red Horseman of War, as it allows him to sow war and chaos across the lands of Skyrim. From this tree you will take Illusion Mastery, Illusion Dual Casting, Imposing Presence, and Commanding Presence. There are a few perks like Pandemonium that enhance the effectiveness of frenzy spells, but these were not taken due to the fact that you have to go through a bunch of other perks for an overall half-decent perk trade-off, and it's not worth investing the perk points there. So what we have taken are the Imposing Presence and Commanding Presence perks. The presence affects enemies and allies. For example, Imposing Presence affects the effectiveness of your frenzy spells on enemies, and Commanding Presence allows you to use your fortifying spells on your allies. Obviously, this works extremely well for a commander of war, and due to the fact that the Red Horseman just looks so absolutely terrifying, Imposing Presence works great for role-playing as well as practical reasons. With just a few miscellaneous things to touch on for the Red Horsemen of War, you will need no followers, but instead will of course use a mount. This will definitely be the Blaze of Eventide mount from the Blaze of Eventide mod. This is an awesome flaming steed that fits perfectly with the aesthetic of the character as well as historical descriptions of him. Housing is completely unnecessary for this character. As for armor, you will take gold-legged armor, gauntlets, and boots. This armor comes from a mod, and the mod page linked in the description explains how to get this armor. You will also use the Volsung Dragon Priest mask and a red Imperial cape from whichever mod you want, but I used the Cloaks and Capes of Skyrim mod. Your weapon will be a golden legate sword, which comes with the gold legate armor, and you will also use a golden legate shield. And that covers absolutely everything you need to know in order to bring the Red Horsemen of the Apocalypse into Skyrim. As usual, all the mods, both required and optional, are listed in the description, as well as links to their respective Bethesda.net pages. And of course, thank you to BADCompanySarge for organizing this super fun collaboration, and to Shadow Penguin and Brosis JK for helping out. But apart from all that, thank you all so much for watching. If you did indeed enjoy the video, please don't forget to show your appreciation with a like, and certainly leave a comment with your feedback. I'll get back to you on those as soon as I possibly can. Again, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Red Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I've been Ethan from the PixelArrowProductions, and I will see you in another video.